But Jesse, we have some games to talk about.
We do.
2 games in particular, 2 semi-final matches have occurred at @CMPerfect_AFL on Insta, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, where you're watching this now, hopefully, or our main podcast episodes on the other ones. Please join us there. Like, share, and subscribe, because look at this.
This is why I do the bits normally.
It's dedication, Jesse. It's dedication. Look at this. I'm in Japan and I'm still doing footy with you. How are the games, Jesse? Did you enjoy them?
I did. Well, I enjoyed the first one, and then I enjoyed the first half of the second one, and then it kind of just got a bit boring, to be honest. But Liam, we'll start with the Crowtastrophe, as I'm calling it, because that it was
Sure.
at Adelaide Oval. What on earth has happened here?
Well, we predicted it might happen, Jesse. The Adelaide Crows 10-7, 67, going down to the Hawthorn Hawks 14-17, 101. Let's do it. Let's do it, Jesse. We're on the other side of the planet. We can still do the dance.
Yeah,
fun,
we can.
fun.
Hawthorn win. Fun. Hawthorn win.
Hawthorn win.
Inter-hemisphere Hawthorn win.
But no, it was a dominant display by the Hawks, and we kind of figured the Adelaide Crows might have a little bit of finals rust, and it showed, Jesse, that they did, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think this was just simply a case of one team is built for finals now. One team is probably built for finals in the next couple of years, and potentially things just happened too fast for Adelaide in 2025. They kind of ended on top of the ladder by default, almost, with Collingwood falling away. They were the only team to really avoid a bad run during the home and away season of the top 8 side. So they kind of ended up in that first spot by default. But remember, there was 2.5, 3 games separating first place Adelaide and 8th place Hawthorn. So, any other season, that's become a cliche across the competition. But any other season, X, Y, and Z would have happened. But I think the only team that can really lay claim to that, or the only 2 teams that can lay claim to that, are the Dogs and the Crows that can really use that any other season. I think the reality is Adelaide have had a fantastic season. They ended up on top by default. But in hindsight, they weren't ready for this September final series. You're talking, the anchor players, and Isaac Rankin to one side, the anchor players that marshal this team, it's still probably a couple of years away. Worrell and Thilthorpe, that spine is going to be very good for a very long time, but it's still very new. Barely over 50 games apiece. It's young. I think the midfield's copped a lot of criticism, and the Hawks probably did have their way with them on Friday night, but I'm not as worried about that. I think the Crows midfield will be fine. Sure. I wouldn't be panicking about that just yet. But ultimately, their forward line, which we've glowed about all season, didn't turn up in the 2 finals, and we've got a double chance, and he don't turn up in either. Well, that's got to worry Matthew Nicks. I think that's the big alarm bell for the finals, because what their biggest asset has been very quickly became their biggest weakness.
Yeah, and like almost on a switch, like all these things. It's like the we talk about this a lot, Jesse, the state of occasion for the finals. Like you see a lot of the teams get to the finals and actually capitulate. Is this a case of that for the Crows? I mean, 14 more turnovers in the Hawks in this particular game, kind of wasting away all their opportunities, which is not something they did throughout the season. So no. It's just a case of the occasion getting to them, Jesse.
I think so. I think ultimately, you can dissect it in 1,000,001 different ways. Why Adelaide didn't win either of their finals games, why they performed so well in the season. But I think ultimately, football at times is overcomplicated by people who need to have opinions and talk every day about things. That's not a shot at anyone particularly. Sure. It's just the nature of the landscape. I think we come on here once a week. Hopefully we can take a bit of the sting and the emotion out of this from the neutral point of view and look at it in this lens. Adelaide are going to be very good next year. I think they're going to be top 4. I think they're a genuine premiership threat next season. Brisbane, for years, couldn't get over the straight sets hump. And now they're on the cusp of 3 consecutive grand finals, potentially 2 consecutive premierships. I think Adelaide are ahead now of where Brisbane were at that point under Fagan. Because if you look at the like for like, I think Thilthorpe has potential to be better than Danaher.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather have Fogarty as a key than have the second asset of Charlie Cameron as a small. I'd rather go with my 2 bigs and have a guy like Ben Keys around. Tex Walker, notwithstanding, I don't think he'll be there beyond next year. So we can keep him around for one more season. I think Adelaide are really well placed, and I wouldn't want the straight sets reality of the last couple of weeks to distract the Crows and distract the fan base from where they are, which is already a very good side that is on the cusp of being a great side if they just get this next couple of off seasons right. I think they're really close. Dan Curtin has a lot of improvement to come. Yeah. I still think we haven't seen the best of Worrell. That's terrifying. Keane has become one of the best defenders in the competition. And look, the Adelaide defence, they've conceded 100 points. I actually don't think they particularly had a bad night. They were just overwhelmed by the speed on ball the Hawks had through guys like Watson, Ginnivan. Hardwick moves that ball so well.
There's only so much a defender can do, Jesse. There's only so much defenders can do.
And you saw the defense was Swiss cheese for a lot of that game, Len, because the ball was just moving that quickly. And, we talk about speed on ball being such a key attribute for sides. I think the sides that are going to be good in the next couple of seasons are your speed on ball teams. Hawthorn clearly have that, and we'll come to them more in a second. But to finish at Adelaide, this is disappointing. In many ways, it's a ha-ha result because no team has done this under the current modern final system, crashed out having been first in the regular season, the home and away season. But this is an opportunity for the Crows to come together, to strengthen and to unite. This could go one of two ways, I think. They could really look back at 25 as being like 2006, the one that got away potentially, because it did get away from them after that. Or they can really use this to galvanise. I think looking at this list and looking at a lot of the leaders that they have, they've been under siege, a lot of it from their own making in the last few weeks. I think they'll galvanise. I think they'll be okay next year.
Yeah, I mean, jumping from 15th to 1st across the season, and they've been down that in the teens, more or less, for the last few years. Jumping up to 1st is a massive result. But yeah, like we've been saying for a little bit, I think they'll be okay. Adelaide. Obviously not how you want to go out of the finals, but hey, look, that's just how it goes. John Newcombe, Jesse, made for finals, that boy, isn't he? Goodness gracious me. Oh, my word.
And to think that he had to be found by Sam Mitchell as the coach of Box Hill, when Mitch is cutting his teeth as what a senior coach looks like. And I love this. I love this story. I think this is fantastic. Mitchell does it in what seemingly is a non-conventional way, which is actually getting senior coaching experience in a state league, getting that under the belt. And geez, he's got a good eye for talent. He found him for Box Hill in the VFL, managed to get him in the mid-season draft up to Hawthorn in the AFL. And he's been one of the best players this final series. He is one of the best mids in the competition. Outside of that, he's probably Hawthorn's best player. I mean, Gunston probably deserves it this season, but if you extrapolate over the last 2 or 3, I'd say he's been the best player they've had. It's a remarkable story, and he's exactly the type of guy you want running out next year, going into a game like they're going to have this week.
100%, and lots of winners for the Hawks across the board. But Gunston, he's just winding back the clock. I mean, he's coming to the end of his career, but God, he's just keeping them in game. Well, not keeping them in games. Like, he's a big part and factor, especially across the last couple of months. He's been kicking bags. What's going on? Obviously, a Cinderella story potentially to end his career. Can't say the same for old Bruce, unfortunately. Pretty bad knee done for him down in the VFL, unfortunately. But what's the secret to his success? Is Benjamin Button, Jack Gunston?
I think there's 2 things. 3 things. I think we've had really good advancements in sports science in the last probably 10 years that is helping vets stay healthy. Gunston's probably always been more likely to have a renaissance like this because he's always been more of a mobile forward. He's not your crash and bash guy. He's not the one that flies into a pack. Like if we use the Hawthorn of old, like he's not doing the Roughhead and Franklin role. He's doing the Gunston role. So he's always had that ability to protect his body somewhat. That's factor number 1. Factor number 2 is the fact that he actually plays in a very old school way that suits this Hawks team so well. I say he leads at the ball carrier. I don't want to get on the whole tangent of the old school's always better. Oftentimes it's not. But sometimes there is an element of simplicity in just playing direct football and going back to your meat and potatoes. Jack Gunston is a meat and potatoes footballer. You're not putting your sauces on or your dressings on. You're getting your serving and you're liking it. And it's pretty good as is. And you don't need to mess with that because it works. The third thing, and something I really want to highlight, Chol, Deer, Gunston, none of those names, Gunston at his current age, none of those names in isolation strike fear into an opposition. But they work so well together as bigs that it completely distorts good defensive sides' ability to zone and to cut others off. Deer and Chol can jump higher than just about anyone in this competition vertically. That brings the ball to ground a lot more. Moore, Ginnivan, Watson, they're licking their lips at something like that. Butler was fantastic as well, throw him in there. Then you get the fact that Gunston is able to go and create his own space. He doesn't need to worry about what's happening with Chol and Dia. He just goes into his own leading lane. He's happy. He's fine, but that drags the best defender away. It's just such good football, and it's the type of football that you want to see from a tactical point of view because it's not worrying about the one percenters all the time. It's getting the results and playing a results-driven brand of footy that Sam Mitchell likes. I'm a huge fan of it. I'm a huge Sam Mitchell fan. As a coach, I think you just need to look at that forward six to see why.
And it's something that we see in other teams a lot. Like, how often does everyone go for the ball up together, leaving no one else out the back to crumb? These guys have it down pat. The Hawks, they've got it down pat. So I'm interested to see how far they go, Jesse. I'm quite excited for the Hawks this year. I'm very excited for them. Anything else to add for this one before we move on to our other game?
The booing of Sicily was weird.
What's going on there?
Yeah.
Is it just because he's good or what?
There was a bit of an incident, but I just feel like they've been a bit cantankerous, the Crows fans, in recent weeks, and I just don't think this was necessary, to be honest.
It's kind of on brand at the moment for the Crows, unfortunately, isn't it? It's booing away. All right, Jesse, let's move on to the second game of the finals, or semi-final round, and that is this one at the Gabba, or the Gabe, as I've written there. Usually I would go and change this.
Is that the French stadium?
Le Garbe. Well, I mean, their theme song is based on the French national anthem, so that's what it is now. And because I'm in Japan, I'm not fixing it. 14-16 100 to the Lions, 6-11-47 to the Suns, Jesse. Look, a little bit disappointing. I was hoping the Suns to be able to back up their win last week against the Dockers and show something, but they were pretty soundly beaten in the second half of this game, at least.
Yeah, this Gold Coast actually reminded me a lot of a racehorse who's had one too many runs in a spring campaign. They go through, they do very well, they win a Turnbull, they win a Cox Plate, and then they get to Champions Day and they just run flat as a biscuit because they've had their grand final. And ultimately, the Suns played their grand final at Optus Stadium last week. That's not in a disparaging way at all. It's not meant to belittle the Suns in that regard. But this was a quantum leap forward. Talk about Adelaide's leap forward. Adelaide's leap was huge. But Gold Coast got a lot of voodoos out of the way this season. They scraped over the line against the Dockers, which is a huge win. And on one hand, the type of win you can build off in a finals campaign. But then you've got to go up against Brisbane, a team that is able to choke the life out of anyone they play against, whether that be a very good side or a very poor one. They play a brand of footy that isn't always the sexiest or the best to watch. Not to say it's boring, they've got plenty of exciting players, but they play a very disciplined brand of footy. The Gold Coast were able to get on a roll when these guys played in the Q Clash a few weeks ago. It wasn't the case here, despite a hot start. Once Brisbane took over the game, it was all over. And we've seen the Lions do this with scary amounts of consistency this season. If they're able to get their claws into the game, much like an actual lion, if they're able to sink their claws in and get their teeth in, you're going to really struggle to get out of that. That's not a good position to be in. And the Lions, while the Suns competed, and they certainly didn't drop their heads and wave the white flag, they competed all night, and that deserves commendation. It was pretty clear from a long way. I watched it with not really a football person, and it was pretty clear when you start getting the whole, I thought these guys were good comments about early in the third quarter. You can kind of see, mixed in with it, didn't they beat Fremantle? Yes, well, they did beat Fremantle, but that's actually beside the point.
Yeah, I think the Gold Coast game is always fun to watch because it's a little bit chaotic from time to time. It's very fast. It's very fun to watch. But yeah, once you get a disciplined team, like you said, get hold of them, man, it's unfortunately, it can like tick over the other way again. Like it can have a bit of ebbs and flows. But this one, though, the Lions just got hold of them and tore them apart, unfortunately. But just through pure suffocation, Jesse. Pure suffocation. Tackling like crazy. Top 10 of the 10 of the top 11 individual marketers of the whole game. My goodness me. like it's pretty clear where this game was won.
Yeah, and well, they've been doing this tactic a lot. They did it against Fremantle. They tried against Geelong in the losing qualifying final. You know, we know the way Brisbane are going to play now, but they're still very good. And you know, sometimes predictability is okay if your team is very good and your game plan is also effective. So Brisbane have that. They showed that here. At the end of the day, you're not going to lose many games where you have 30 scoring shots to 17. The Lions, I think they'll be pleased with this because Morris had a better game than he did in a disappointing qualifying final for him. The midfield stood up in the absence of some key players. Well, obviously, Lachie Neale being a key omission there. But, you know, the Ashcroft boys, we know how good they are. McCluskey's having a great season. Dunkley was enormous. You know, just looking through some of the numbers here, Len. Lohman, shaved head and all. You know, you talk about finals players in the context of Joe Newcomb. I think you can throw Lohman in that. We've seen that consistently. Zach Bailey starting to command $1.4 million numbers for his free agent year next season. You know, you can see why. They're just a really well balanced team, Len. They're just a very. Yeah. I don't want to call them perfect because every team can improve. That's how football works. And Brisbane are actively recruiting for next season. We know that. But in terms of where they are right now, they're almost a side that you look at them, and if you do it in video game ratings, you'd probably rate them the third best side in the competition in somewhere. But you'd also rate them, I'll say first tactically. I'll go Brisbane, then Geelong, and then Hawthorn. And look where those three teams are.
Yeah,
that's all you need to know.
Well, I think we've got probably after such a close season. I think it's fair to say we've probably got the best top four from the season playing potentially in the upcoming finals. That'd be fair to say. It's
harsh on Adelaide, but you look at the net margins in the finals games, and I think you have to accept that. I don't think any of these four teams don't deserve to be here. Put it that way.
Gotcha. On the flip side of that, you have the Suns who, okay, like you were saying, a fairy tale season for them, maiden final, got through the first one with a win, which is fantastic. But how was their game, Jesse? What let them down in this one?
They just couldn't get their hands on the ball.
Yeah. With
any synchronicity at all, it was a case. Every opportunity to go forward was breaking down. Harris Andrews was brilliant, and I don't necessarily think that the Suns' forward line had a bad game. I mean, Ben King was lively early. King's not a numbers guy in terms of your disposal, so you've got to get him the opportunity. He'll probably kick the goal for you, but you've got to get him the opportunity. And that happened early. It didn't really continue through. I mean, elsewhere, Anderson and Rao went from having, 35 and 33 against Fremantle to having 26 and 23. That's a huge drop. Noble was their most attacking player, I felt. He didn't have a great night. He was fine, but he wasn't as damaging as we've seen him be at times this season. There was some disappointments though as well. Bailey Humphrey had a night to forget. He'll be really disappointed with that, I think, Bailey Humphrey, because he's another one that you would have considered talking about your finals occasion player because he was so good against Fremantle last week. He was dominant in that elimination final, but he just didn't kick on with it. I just ultimately think, Witts was good. When is he not? Jared Witts. I mean, he's a fantastic player, but they were under siege a long way out the Suns, and unfortunately, David Swallow, as unlikely as it may have been that he was going to get any further than a prelim, it's time for him now too. One of the great servants of the Suns, and I think a player that I hope he gets something at the Suns, whether that's the Best Clubman Awards named after him. Maybe I don't know if you name the best and fairest after him. You could. I don't think that'd be a bad call, but I would like to see David Swallow honoured properly by the football club because he has been a very good player for them for a very long time. Drafted at WA, drafted at Israel 18 as a number one pick. Could have left at any point. Stuck by the club, stuck through a lot of garbage, stuck through a lot of poor culture, a lot of players coming in, doing their 2, doing their 3 years, rocketing straight out. It wasn't a fun time. It couldn't have been a fun time for David Swallow. So he got the finals win. He got his finals moment as well.
Yeah, he did.
But yeah, a great career. Let's leave it at that for David Swallow.
Fair enough, Jesse. All right. Well, that's the 2 semi-finals. Anything else to add before we wrap this one up?
No, except for if you're enjoying what we're putting out here on the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast, consider subscribing, whether that be on your preferred podcasting platform or on YouTube. If it is YouTube, a like is always much appreciated as well, and comment down below your thoughts on the team's games. If you're on Spotify, you can do that too. Drop a comment in and let us know how you thought the semi-finals shook out and what you think of Adelaide and Gold Coast seasons. Were you happy with it if you're a Suns or Crows fan? Were you a bit disappointed with the way it played out? Let us know. But Liam, I will let you get back to your fun. I assume you ran in the marathon today in the World Athletics Championships that were over there. It was a great finish, a photo finish in the marathon in what I would assume was 30-degree heat. Did you enjoy your run?
No, Jesse, I was sitting at a sumo tournament today. What was a very fun and exciting day. I really enjoyed my time. It was lovely. I did. No, I'm 0-2 in my sumo career, so unfortunately, it stays that way today. Unfortunately, but no, I will definitely be getting back to some fun. Don't you worry about that. But until next time, Jesse, I shall bid everyone adieu.
Adieu to you too,
Bye-bye.
and adieu to everyone.
Bye-bye.